That's Ooh, what's up, you? Not crazy yet from my phone. Oh boy. We will see. But anyway, without further ado, Sherlock Holmes, a scandal in Bohemia. Fuck you, YouTube. Is this even working? I really can't tell if this is working. It looks like it was on some stuff and then it just decided to stop. So let me wait for my unstable type everything I just typed out. That's really my only reason. Is this working? Am I working? Doesn't look like I'm working. Okay, now it says I'm working. So, a scandal in Bohemia. To Sherlock Holmes. She's always the woman. I've seldom heard him mention her under any other name. In his eyes, she eclipses and predominates the whole of her sex. It was not that he abhorrent to his cold, precise, but admirably balanced mind. He was, as I take it, the most perfect reasoning and observing machine that the world has ever seen, but as a lover he would have placed himself in false position. He never spoke of this often. The trained reasoner to admit such intrusions into his own delicate and finely adjusted temperament was to introduce a distracting factor which might throw doubt upon all his mental results. From time to time, I heard some vague accounts of his doings, of his summons to Odessa in the case of the Tripov murder, of his clearing up of the singular tragedy of the Atkinson brothers in Trincomalee, and finally, of his mission which he had accomplished so delicately and successfully for the reigning family of Holland. Beyond these signs of his activity, however, which I merely shared with all the readers of this daily press, I knew little of my former friend and companion. One night, it was on the 20th of March, 1888, I was returning from a journey to a patient, for I had now returned to civil practice, which my way led me through Baker Street. As I passed the well-remembered door, which must always be associated in my mind with my wooing and with the dark incidents of the study in scarlet, I was seized with a keen desire to see Holmes again, and to know how he was employing his extraordinary powers. His rooms were brilliantly lit, and even as I looked up I saw his tall, spare figure pass twice in a dark silhouette against the blind. He was pacing the room swiftly, eagerly, with his head sunk upon his chest and his hands clasped behind me. To me, who knew his every move and habit, his attitude and manner told their own story. He was at work again. He had risen out of his drug-created problems and was hot upon the set of... His manner was not elusive. It seldom was, but he was glad, I think, to see me. With hardly a word, but with a kindly eye, he waved me to an armchair, threw across his case of cigars, and indicated a spirit case and a gasogene in the corner. Then he stood before the fire and looked me over in his singular introspective fashion. "You and your seats, yeah?" he remarked. That's too cocky. Let me try that again. "Wedlock seats, yeah?" he remarked. "I think, Watson, that you have put on 7.5 pounds since I saw you." 7? I answered. "Indeed, I should have thought a little more. A trifle more, I fancy, Watson. And as I practice again, I observe. You did not tell me that you intended to go into harness." "Then how do you know?" "I see it, I deduce it. How do I know that you've been getting yourself very wet lately, and that you have a most clumsy and careless servant girl? Holmes, said I, this is too much. You would certainly have been burdened had you lived a few centuries ago. It is true that I had a country walk on Thursday and came home in a dreadful mess. But as I have changed my clothes, I can't imagine how you deduce it. As to Mary Jane, she is incorrigible, and my wife has given her notice, but there again, I fail to see how you work it out. He chuckled to himself and rubbed his long and nervous hands together. It's simplicity himself, said he. You always tell me that on the inside of your left shoe, just where the firelock strikes it, the leather is scored by 6 almost parallel cuts. Obviously, they've been caused by someone who has very carelessly scraped the round edges of the sole in order to remove crusty mud from it. Hence, you see, my double deduction that you've been in vile weather, and that you've a particularly malignant boot-splitting specimen of the London slavery. As the right side of his top hat when he is secreted his stethoscope, I must be dull indeed if I do not pronounce him to be an active member of the medical profession. Sorry, I just got a message. um, could not help laughing at the ease at which he explained the process of deduction. When I hear you give your reasons, I remarked, the thing always appears to me to be so ridiculously simple that I could easily do it myself, though at each successive instance of your reasoning I am baffled until you explain your process. And yet I believe that my eyes are as good as yours. Quite so, he answered, lighting a cigarette, throwing himself down into an armchair. You see, but you do not observe. The distinction is clear. For example, you have frequently seen the steps which lead up to the hall from this room. Frequently? How often? Well, some hundreds of times. And how many are there? How many? I don't know. What, so you've not observed, and yet you've seen? That is just me point. Now, I know there is 17 ships, because we now have both seen and observed a way since you are interested in these little problems, and since you are good enough to chronicle one or two of my trifling experiences, you may be interested in this. He threw over a sheet of thick, pink-tinted notepaper, which had been lying open on the table. What came by the last post? He said. Read it aloud. Tinted notepaper, which had been lying open on the table. What came by the last post? He said. Read it aloud. The note was undated and without either signature or address. There will call upon you tonight at 7:45, it said, a gentleman who desires to consult you upon a matter of an importance which can hardly be exaggerated. This account of you we have from all quarters received. Be in your chamber then at that hour, and do not take it amiss if your visitor wear a mask. This is a mystery indeed, I remarked. What do you imagine that it means? Well, I've no data yet. It is a capital mistake to theorize before one knows data. Insensibly, one begins to twist facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts. Was the note itself? What do you deduce from it? I carefully examined the writing and the paper upon which it was written. The man who wrote it was presumably well-to-do, I remarked, endeavoring to imitate my companion's processes. Such paper could not have been bought under half a crown a packet. It is particularly strong and stiff, or peculiarly strong and stiff. It is not an English paper at all. Hold it up to the light. I did so and saw a large E with a small g, a P and a large G with a small f, woven into the texture of the paper. What what do you make of that? Asked Holmes. The name of the maker, no doubt, or his monogram, rather. Not at all. The G with the small t stands for Gesellschaft, which is the German for company. It is customary contraction to our CO, or P, of course, stands for papier. Now, for the EG, let us glance at the Continental Gazetteer. He took down a heavy round volume from the shelves. Eglo, Eglonitz, Euria, Egra. It is a German-speaking country in Bohemia, not far from Carlsbad. Remarkable as being the death scene of Wallenstein for its numerous glass factories and paper mills. Ha ha, my boy, what you make of that? His eyes sparkled and he set up a great blue, triumphant cloud from his cigarette. The paper was made in Bohemia, I said. Precisely, and the man who wrote it out is a German. You know the peculiar construction of the sentence? This account of you we have from all quarters received. A Frenchman or a Russian couldn't have written that. It is the German who is so uncourteous with his verbs. It only remains therefore to discover what is wanted by the German who writes upon Bohemian paper and prefers wearing a mask to show his face. And here he comes, if I am not mistaken, to resolve all of our doubts. He continued, glancing out of the window. Nor shall borrow him in pair of beauties, 150 guineas apiece. There's money in this case, Watson, if nothing else. I think I'd better go, Holmes. Not a bit, Doctor. Stay where you are. I'm yours without my Boswell. This promises to be interesting. It would be a pity to miss it. But your client, never mind him. We may want your help, and so may he. Here he comes. Sit down in that armchair, Doctor, and give us your best attention. A slow and heavy step, which had been excuse me. Ah. The slow and heavy step which had been heard upon the stairs in the passage paused outside the door. There was a loud and authoritative tap. Come in, said Holmes. A man entered who could hardly have been less than 6 feet 6 inches in height, with the chest and limbs of Hercules. Bronze. His dress was rich, and with a richness which would in England be looked upon as akin to bad taste. Heavy bands of astrakhan were slashed across the sleeves and fronts of his double-breasted coat, while the deep blue cloak, which was thrown over his shoulders, was lined with flame-colored silk and secured at the neck with a brooch which consisted of a single flaming barrel. Boots which extended halfway up his calves, and which were trimmed at the tops with rich brown fur, completed the impression of barbaric opulence which was suggested by his whole appearance. Oh my god, why my nose itches so bad? Give me just a sec. My eyes are watering and my nose is itching for no reason. It's killing me. Heavy bands. No, that's the astrakhan. Calves, and which were trimmed at the tops with rich brown fur, completed his impression of barbaric opulence, which was suggested by his whole appearance. He carried a broad-brimmed hat in his hand, while he wore across the upper part of his face, standing down past his cheekbones, a black visored mask, which he had apparently adjusted that very moment, for his hands were still raised to it as he entered. From the lower part of the face, he appeared to be a man of strong character, with a thick hanging lip and long straight chin, suggestive of resolution pushed to the length of obstinacy. You had the note? No. You had the note, he asked with a deep, harsh voice and a strongly marked German accent. These cases, you more have the honor to address? You may address me as the Count von Kram, a Bohemian nobleman. I understand that this gentleman is your friend, is a man of honor and discretion, whom I will trust with a matter of extreme importance. This pushed me back into my chair. You shall bow for none, said he. You may say before this gentleman anything which you might say to me. The Count shrugged his broad shoulders. Then I must begin, said he, by binding you both to absolute secrecy for 2 years. At the end of that time, the matter will be of no importance. The man sprang from his chair in terrible agitation. Then, with a gesture of desperation, he tore the mask from his face and hurled it upon the ground. You are right, he cried. I am the king. Why should I attempt to conceal it? Why, indeed, murmured Holmes. Your Majesty had not spoken before I was aware that I was addressing Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund von Ormstein, Grand Duke of Castle Felstein, and hereditary King of Bohemia. But who can understand, said our strange visitor, sitting down once more and passing his hand over his high white forehead. You can understand that I am not accustomed to doing such business in my own person. Yet the matter was so delicate that I could not confide it to an agent without putting myself in his power. I have come incognito from Prague for the purpose of consulting you. Then pray consult, said Holmes, shutting his eyes once more. The facts are briefly this. Some 5 years ago, during a lengthy visit to Warsaw, I made the acquaintance of the well-known adventuress Irene Atla. The name is no doubt familiar to you, no? Kindly look her up in my index, Doctor, murmured Holmes without opening his eyes. For many years he had adopted a system of docketing all paragraphs concerning men and things, so it was difficult to name a subject or a person on which he could not at once furnish information. In this case, I found her biography sandwiched in between that of a Hebrew rabbi and that of a staff commander who had written a monograph upon the deep-sea fishes. Let me see, said Holmes. Born in New Jersey in the year 1858. Contralto, a scholar, prima donna Imperial House of Warsaw. Yes, retired from operatic stage. Ha! Living in London quite so. Your Majesty, as I understand, became precisely so. But how? Was there a secret marriage? None. No legal papers or certificates? None. Do not fail to follow, Your Majesty. This young person shall produce the letters for blackmailing your other purposes. How is he supposed to prove their authenticity? There is the writing. Oh, God. There is the writing. Oh, pooh, forgery. My private notepaper. Stolen. My own seal. Imitated. My photograph? Oh. We were both in the photograph. Oh dear, this is very bad, Your Majesty has indeed committed an indiscretion. I was mad. Insane. You compromise yourself seriously. I was only a crown prince then. I was young. I am but 30 now. You must be recovered. We have tried and failed. Your Majesty must be, but she will not shall. Stolen then. 5 attempts have been made. Thrice burglars in my pay have ransacked the house. Once we have diverted her luggage when she travelled. Twice she has been waylaid. There has been no result. No sign of it. Absolutely none. Holmes laughed. It is quite a pretty little problem, said he. But a serious one to me, returned the king reproachfully. Very indeed. A Wussman von Saxe-Megan, second daughter of the king of Scandinavia. You may know the strict principles of her family. She is herself Adler. She threatens to send him the photograph. But she will do it. I know that she will do it. You do not know her, but she has a soul of steel. She has the face of the most beautiful woman and the mind of the most resolute of men. There are no lengths to which she would not go. None. You are sure that she has not sent it yet? I am sure. And why? Because she has said that she would send it on the day when the betrothal was publicly complained. That will be next Monday. Oh, so we have 3 days yet, said Holmes with a yawn. That is very fortunate, as I have one or two matters of importance to look into at present. Your Majesty will, of course, stay in London for the present? Certainly. You will find me at the Langham under the name of Count von Gram. Then I shall drop you on how we progress. Credo so, I shall be all anxiety. In as to money, you have carte blanche? Absolutely. The street. You will be good enough to call tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock. Or should you like to chat this little matter afternoon at 3 o'clock? Or should you like to chat this little matter over to you? At 3 o'clock precisely, the character Freemasonry amongst the room on the right shore where beyond there was nothing remarkable. Save the passage window could be reached of the inner temple. See the advantages of a cabman as your confidant.